Well, thanks again for everybody showing up to this webinar, to the Recruiter's Guide to CRM. My name is Dan Harton. I am part of the customer marketing team here at hireEZ. Before I came here, I was a former recruiter for the last decade, and I know the pain points of, what CRMs are out there, and was super, super proud and excited for what the hireEZ team is building here with their new CRM. From a quote from Jeff Kaye, the co-CEO at Sanford Rose Associates, CRMs are usually not intuitive for the user as the people buying the product for the user to use. There's a lot of complaints around traditional CRMs, and we want to dive in deep and really explain kind of what we've been doing here at hireEZ. So we brought two experts from our product team to kind of show you guys what we've been doing the last couple months and revealing what the hireEZ 2 is all about. So want to introduce Krista and to the call, and I will kick it off to them to give them an introduction.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. So yeah, as you mentioned, I'm one of two product leaders here at hireEZ. So being the other one, we'll take turns stepping through some of the new product areas that we are super excited to share with you. I will step through two areas first, and then I'll hand off to to step through hers. So jumping right into a screen share so I can walk you through those. The first of those two areas that I want to introduce you to is relationships, and this includes talent pools. So for those of you familiar with talent pools, the objective here will be really clear, but to state it and get everyone on the same page, the real goal here is to segment large groups of candidates for the sake of nurturing or evergreen positions. So that is either a position that you're hiring for continuously or one that you anticipate hiring for in the future. So when the user first lands on this page, we've introduced a couple of talent pools. These include some that we've established and recommend on our side. So the example shown here is what we call contact later. The candidates that are put into this talent pool come from those who replied contact later to the poll function within the email. So we have a poll feature where answers include, by default, a number of options, and the third one is contact later, which means the candidate might be interested in the future, but maybe not right now. So any candidates responding to that are added to this pool, and in the future, we'll add a couple of additional ones. The ones below here are those that the user or their team has set up, and these can be defined using the filter here on the left. So a number of different filter options, and then once you select one or more, you can create a talent pool using that criteria. Jumping back to an individual pool, we'll step through the table that is shown here. So the main column that I want to orient you to is temperature here in the middle. So we do offer a little tooltip on what we mean by temperature. In short, this is lifted from the sales model. So when you hear about a cold lead, which is someone who receives a cold call, which I think we're all familiar with, in sales, it's very common to talk in terms of cold, warm, hot. A cold lead being someone who has not expressed a lot of explicit interest in the company or the offer, and a hot lead being someone that there's probably been a lot of dialogue with and there's a lot of indication of interest. So similarly here with the candidates, a cold candidate is someone who has never indicated any awareness, let alone interest in either the company or the recruiter. And a hot candidate is someone who's indicated a lot of interest. The sort of things that we look at by default are things like opening an email, clicking any of the content within an email, responding to an email, applying, interviewing, etc. And all of those are weighted with regard to two things. One, the number of times they do it and how recently they did it. So a candidate that, for example, opens an email 20 times in the last couple of days is weighted more heavily than someone who opened an email once, say 6 months ago. This model can be adjusted by an admin on the account. So if they feel that the variables should be a little bit different for their set of candidates, an admin can go into the admin console and adjust the sliders for the variables here so that these are a little bit different and a better representation of how they see their candidates. Going down into the individual candidate, they each have a temperature indicated, and if the user hovers on them, they'll see the details related to why we see that candidate as that temperature. So in this case, this candidate applied to a job with this company in the last year, so they're marked as hot. On the right, I'd also like to point out that we have an actions column. So here by default, we have add to project, and the user can select a project from the dropdown. We are about to release what we call recommended projects. So it's effectively the inverse of the logic that we've historically had at hireEZ since we started, which is starting with a project or a JD or search criteria, and then returning candidates whose profiles match. This is the opposite. So starting with a candidate's profile, we look through all of the projects that a user has in hireEZ, including those that we have found in the ATS jobs, and we recommend the projects that best fit for this candidate. So that is the general overview on talent pools and relationships. Any questions on this section before I hop to campaigns? Okay.
I think there is one.
Okay.
One was, is there a way to see which candidates are quote unquote open to work, or is the hot temperature the indicator?
The hot temperature is absolutely an indicator because this is the direct activity that this candidate has had to indicate their level of interest.
Any other questions from the group?
Cool. I will hop to campaigns. There will be time at the end too if there are any questions that pop up or in the chat. Okay, so this is campaigns. In terms of the overall layout here, we did introduce and roll this out in December. So here at the top, we have some of the key metrics: contacted, opened, clicked through, replied, and unsubscribed, and the performance across all of the campaigns. Down below in this table, we offer two different views. This one is what we call activity. So it's reverse chronological, the step that was sent. So in this case, it's an email, and the campaign that it's tied to. The user can also see the campaigns grouped together. So this is each campaign title. And then if the user expands, they can see all of the steps related to that campaign, all of the performance. And again, this is a demo account. So this one is only a demo campaign. But here you would see all of the performance of each of the steps. So this is a better example. And then how it rolls up to the overall performance of the campaign. I did also want to show two different create flows. So one is for email. So we have a couple of different starting points here. There's actually 5 different ways to start an account. I'm sorry, a campaign. So the first one is starting from scratch, which is here in the middle. So you can just start building, adding a step. There's also your campaigns, which are those that you've created, that you've saved. In an actual environment, you would see shared campaigns. So those that the team members created. Again, this is a demo environment, so those aren't shown here. Sample campaigns, which are those that hireEZ creates, and then auto-generate. Auto-generate uses GPT, which we've had in the platform for a while. Previously, we had it tied to only project. So once you added a JD or search criteria, you would be able to have GPT generated content. This is a new higher level functionality. So all you have to enter is a title and a company. You have the option of adding a JD, but you don't have to if you don't yet know what the JD will be. Maybe this is a campaign that will be nurturing just a general type of title or role for a hiring activity that might happen 6 months from now. And then you can go ahead and hit generate, and it will generate a number of emails for the user. Once those are generated, they can edit them as they see fit. So they can remove content and add content to make it how they'd like to be sent. And then this is that poll feature that I mentioned before. And then one other thing I'd like to show is text. So the text flow looks exactly like this when you build it. So it's the same exact UI. The example that most people always like to see is how it looks in the inbox and outbox. So hopping over to here, these indicate what type of channel was sent. So these are emails, little envelope icon, and this is a text. So all of the communication is grouped together for the ease of efficiency. And this is how the thread would look. So the gray box is the recruiter, the blue boxes are the candidate, and the user can respond right from here. Cool. those are the high level features for campaigns for CRM. One that folks also like to see is some newsletter functionality. So this is some of the functionality that we can support. So we do have HTML, and we can support HTML signatures, etc. Any questions on campaigns?
I just wanted to highlight, if you want to go back to that campaigns page.
Sure.
As a former recruiter, the campaign performance, the contacted, open, click through, replied, and unsubscribe, that is a breath of fresh air, because sometimes in my former experiences, if I went on a different platform and sent an email, I wasn't able to know if they opened it or clicked through that. And this platform really gives you the breakdown of who's actually interacting with your campaign. And a yes, a no, and a haven't replied are three different things. So it's really, really cool to see the breakdown, because it helps me as a recruiter and a sourcer to figure out a different avenue if they opened it, but they didn't reply yet. So then maybe I try text messaging or whatever it may be. I think it's super, super helpful for the recruiting community and the sourcers out there. Any questions, any comments from the group?
Well, if not, feel free to use the chat. Other than that, I will hand off to
Oh, we do have one.
Oh, sure.
It says, do campaigns require confirmed emails/phone numbers, or does hireEZ help get them?
So it depends on the user's candidate set. So if they're using candidates from ATS, the contact info comes with the candidate profile from ATS. If they're using what we call open web candidates, so those that were searched and found within hireEZ, we do a really big investment in terms of getting all of the contact information that we can. So not only email addresses, but alternative email addresses. And then we will indicate if they are verified, which means that we have previously been able to get that email to the recipient. And then phone numbers, those come from the ATS profile.
Awesome. There's another one that says, how do I make sure a candidate stops receiving campaign emails if they have asked to be removed from the mailing list?
Yeah, so we handle that in the back end. There's an unsubscribe link that's in the email. It's an option of including it. If the user includes that and the candidate replies unsubscribe, we handle that automatically. So it's nothing that the user has to worry about.
Any other questions from the group? There's another one. Is there a way for a candidate to click a button to say, contact me later, like in a 6-month window?
Yeah, so we're about to release an update to that poll functionality where a user can adjust the options, and they could update that to say, contact me later in 3 months, and then add another option that says contact me in 6 months.
And will that be on specifically just email or texting function as well?
That's only email. Yeah.
Got it. Any other questions from the group? Awesome.
Cool. Thank you all.
Perfect. I'll take it from here. Hello, everyone. My name's Yuno. I'm the other group PM on the team and working closely with Krista and the rest of the R&D team, basically everyone in hireEZ to build the product. So I'm going to cover the other set of the features we're introducing for CRM functionalities. But actually, before that, I would love to touch a little bit more on the sourcing, just like I saw some questions we talking about it. So just in case you're not familiar with one of our other core functionality that we already have today. So this is our sourcing. And I personally do think this is the most amazing thing on top of like comparing to other CRMs. This is one of our unique value props and competitive advantage. So as you can see here, I'm putting together the bunch of filters, which I'm looking for a product designer. On the right side, you will be able to see the profile, the historical interaction you had with this candidate. In this particular case, this person was also found in the ATS. And you'll be able to see where those skills were I put in that was a match. The historical, the experience, the education of this candidate, why we think this person is a good match. Clicking into that in the profile, you'll be able to see highlights, experience, and all the other information. And here it also includes the contact information we're just talking about. In this particular case, because this person had Greenhouse or ATS integration and interaction with us in the past, we got this information from here. But for other candidates that didn't, we would also have the information of their emails or phone number, contact info. And some of those are verified, which you will see like some of the green check mark here. That was what Krista was mentioning, that or investment into the data to make sure for those candidates, if we have the contact information and facilitate you to start composing outreach campaigns or nurture campaigns right from there. So just wanted to also double click onto the sourcing function that we have. So the updates that we are making on top of the projects, and also just not only looking at prospects and outbound candidates, is one of the newer functionality we're introducing on the applicant side. So this is a project list view where you would be able to see all of those jobs created from your ATS being automatically pulled to hireEZ. We're using Workday here as one example. As you can see, the prospect pipeline was the one that I just showed you regarding sourcing, regarding outbound. You go ahead and find those candidates, adding them into a pipeline, sending them a campaign. So those would be your regular outbound sourcing activities. But at the same time, we're introducing the other side of the puzzle, which is going to be your applicant. We're introducing an applicant match functionality. So clicking into any projects, if there are applicants that we pulled from your ATS and we know those are pending reviewed, we will be using that to formulate this list. So this is a test account with a test job, but the whole idea is that we use the job description you had from Workday in this case, and we parse that job description into a set of criteria, which you can find here in ideal persona. So basically, we break things down for you based off what we learned from your job description to have related title, location, years of experience, skills, education, a lot of information to put in here. But also for the team, you still have the capability to add it and adjust it to make sure you're giving the system, the algorithm, what is the latest and greatest requirements, the most accurate requirement for this particular role that you are looking for. So with that, let's say you adjust the persona or you're happy with that. Either way, we'll be refreshing the results that you are seeing here on the applicant list. And by default, it's ranked based off the matching levels. On the left side, you can see we have best match all the way to not match. For a lot of folks who are getting a lot of traction and volume of these candidates or applicants coming in. So probably focusing on the best match and good match candidate first to make sure you're not missing out the best match talent. So clicking into any of these profile, here you would see the real resume the person submitted. Again, this is a sample, so we use a hireEZ resume, but in real life, this would be the resume that this candidate submitted applied to this particular job. And on the left side, you'll be able to see the matching level and also the details and explainer text and dimensions we had to explain why we think this person is a best match. Remember earlier we talked about we're using the JD from Workday in this case, pulling, parsing, and making sense of those criteria to formulate the requirement. We'll do the same thing, basically just in this case through the resume. So we'll gather resume information of this applicant and make sense of it, and to use that criteria together with the resume parse insights to make sense of that and to give you this recommended matching level and why we think this candidate in this case is a good match. Another place I wanted to get your attention is over these actions. All of these actions, for example, move to which stage or decline with disposition reasons, all of these are associated back to your ATS setting. So what we wanted to do is that you don't need to juggle different places and different platforms. You just do your action here, and then in return in your ATS, things would also be updated and moved to make sure you got the most recent candidate list, applicant list in the right stage. So for a lot of teams, you probably already have some automation set up. For example, for decline, certain reasons, after a couple of days, there would be an auto rejection letter sending out. So this will not impact or intervene any of those workflow. They would work perfectly together. And this is with the purpose of helping you to be more efficient in your hiring process. Another update before I get to the questions is that on the right side, you can see the activity log. Again, in this case, because it's a testing account, it's a little sparse. But if this candidate has historically applied to other jobs, showed up in your ATS, or you had outreach experience or engagement history with this candidate, those information would be show up here to make sure you have the full context about this candidate. Because you probably see, oh, this person had applied to other jobs in the past, or we had reached out to this person as part of our talent community. This way, you would have a full picture of that historical interaction your organization might have with this candidate, and to make that, use that as another additional layer of information to help you make those decisions. So coming back, decline applicants, move forward applicants, all of that, again, those would also be reflecting in your workday, in this case, in real time as well. We do also have a Chrome extension that is working as part of the applicant match system. The difference here is like you would still see the information on the left side with all the matching insights, but it's on the Chrome extension, so it would work on top of your workday. So we are looking at the different applicants from Workday. You can also have that panel slide in to help you make those decisions. So this is just another side of the toolkit, depending on how your team has different workflow, has different preferences. Would you have a larger screen, or you would rather have all of your workflow centralized on Workday? All right, let me open up the chat and feel free to type in more as well.
Just to highlight too, being a former recruiter, I love the platform where I only have to be in one specific platform. In the past, I would have to go to LinkedIn or Indeed and my ATS and have to have 50 different windows up top. And this gives you all the information in one specific area where you can utilize your outreach message. You gather all that information. A lot of people forget the R in CRM is the relationship. And I think you guys done an amazing job of giving opportunities for recruiters to build that relationship with all the information and all that they have access to create the relationship for the long haul, which is super, super awesome.
Cool.
Any other questions from the group?
Cool. There's just one thing I wanted to follow up with also what Dan was sharing. So this functionality we're looking at here would also for sure be connected with any other parts that Krista earlier was sharing related to talent pools, recommendations, and having nurture campaigns moving on. For example, I decline a candidate for this particular role. It doesn't mean this person is not fit for other positions, not fit for, would be a perfect example to also be part of for nurture campaigns, or also be considered. So this application history would also impact their temperature, and all of those connected, all of that connections you can make through talent pools, make sense of them, having them added to different campaigns would also be available. So this way we're really having the inbound applicants flowing into your system as we are able to refresh, and also supporting all the following functions in the talent pool, relationship management, and also the campaign side. Cool, let me stop share and share another screen where I would be able to show you the reporting functionality we're introducing as part of our CRM offering. So this is our reports, and we currently have top of funnel reports and full funnel reports. For those who are using hireEZ today, I'll just quickly go through some of those reports we support. So this is the top of funnel report, which is the performance reports, getting information and data from hireEZ. So I'm not going to go in depth because that's not the center of the conversation today. Wanted to go to the ATS report, but we do support an overview, a project view, a campaign view for you to understand your top of funnel performance when the teams are reviewing, qualifying, contacting different candidates. So this would help you to have a sense of where the team is at regarding their outbound recruiting activities, regarding the results they're getting from their campaign, and other interactions with their projects, how they manage those candidates and pipeline. So, but for today, the focus would be the full funnel reports that we recently introduced. So full funnel reports, different from the other reports, is that full funnel, we're pulling information from your ATS. So we're really reporting not just the top of the funnel of your outbound sourcing, for example, those activities, but we're looking into the whole hiring workflow all the way to hires. So this is where we wanted to share with you regarding our new updates on the reports, where we wanted to help people like you guys as talent acquisition leaders wanting to know where my team is at. What do I report to my hiring managers regarding the recruiting efficiency? Where are the gaps? Who need help? And this is a excellent decision-making tool that we are introducing to you all. So basic structure of the tab, we have 3 different functions on the full funnel reports. The first one and the second piece are like basically a pre-made report. You gotta look and feel about it. So we ask a question, we give you more information, which we'll go into details later. So the first 2 tabs on hiring team performance and hiring manager satisfaction are telling a story like that. But when it comes to hiring funnel, we're trying to give you more flexibility and customization capability to look into the data from application all the way to hires. And this application created in your ATS, basically the starting point when a candidate is entering the ATS. And you would also have other flexibility to see detailed data, which we'll also cover later. Coming back to the hiring team performance, I'll use this as the example to introduce how the information flow, what are the key elements and data points and metrics we're reporting on. So in this case, the first question we're asking is, do we have enough candidates for consideration? So in this case, we have 76% of recruiters have already achieved that goal, but still 7 of them are not yet having sufficient candidates in their screen stage. On the right side, you will be able to see which recruiters with how many requisitions that are not necessarily meeting the bar. Clicking into view more, you'll be able to see more details into those jobs and be able to see how many candidates they have been screened and how many that the benchmark would recommend us to screen. So the benchmark data came from the historical data using pipeline analytics from your ATS. So what we do in this case is that for developer experience engineer, you need to screen 30 candidates in order to get a hire. That's from historical interactions, pipeline analytics of the engineering department. But at this moment, you only did 6, or this recruiter actually only screened for 6. So that means we still have some ways to go. And this way you'll be able to spot where the gaps is at, how much effort the team needed to focus more to get to this average level of the benchmark in order to make a hire. So consider this as a tool for you to get some early signals around who need help, which requisition needed help, and where the team is at in terms of volume. All the benchmarks, here's just one example of screen stage. Later, we also have time to fill, screen to interview conversion, offer acceptance rate. So the time, volume, and conversion related benchmark, in this case, we're using Greenhouse, were actually used by, calculated by your historical data and pipeline analytics from that particular department. All of that data is your data, but we're also going to support the benchmark customization, just in case you do have like a company level or a team level metric or KPI we wanted to hit. So these metrics, I know most of you might feel these are pretty familiar, right? Time to fill, screen to interview, offer acceptance, because those, especially let's say offer acceptance rate, when we get to offer stage is very expensive. So we wanted to make sure we're maintaining a high ratio of those at this stage because a lot of time and efforts were already spent. Another one we're introducing is diversity threshold. I always wanted to highlight that this is a baseline. This is not your team's DEI recruiting goal. This is basically what we are using a 25% of as the ratio or as the threshold. Say your team needs to invite 25% or more candidates from a diversified background to the interview. So this is more of a prefix baseline. So in this case, Amber has this one requisition that didn't hit that 25%. And by calling that out as early as in the interview process, this might be a coaching opportunity, a nudging conversation to have with her, just to make sure that the recruiters and thinking about DEI and always keep on top of that. So again, these are customizable. We wanted to make sure this is fulfilling your team's goal in terms of diversity hiring, or just using 25% as like an industry benchmark in terms of the baseline. Last but not least, we have the different sources and recruiter leaderboard. This is a test account, so you probably see some low numbers, but the overall idea is that we wanted to tell the story not just by volume, but also by the effectiveness and efficiency of these different sources. For example, here we're looking at success rate equal to hires divided by the number of candidates. What does that mean? So basically, we're not just looking at the volume because we just talk about applicant match, right? You could get a ton of applicants flowing in, and recruiters spend hours and hours screening through them, but not all of them or most of them are not really qualified, especially given like today's market. So this is where we wanted to highlight on the quality of the results and which source and channel is really helping you to achieve the goal in a more efficient way overall. So that concludes the first half of the introduction. And the second half of the hiring manager satisfaction, I'm not going to go through each and every matrix in this page, but I'll just highlighting here. For example, here you'll be able to see instead of different recruiter names where we wanted to call out, here we're highlighting which departments and how their performance is like on the requisition level. So basically thinking about this data is being sliced and diced in a different way for you to look at this. Previous one is mostly for you to manage your team, to understand how each other's performing. And the second piece is about when I'm thinking about my client, my stakeholders, my department leads, where I am, where the team is at, to give that information for them. The last one I'm going to cover is a hiring funnel. I mentioned this earlier that this is designed for flexibility to give you the end-to-end view. I'll use the group by source and breakdown by requisition as one example. With all the data we pulled to build the first two pages of the reports, we already got that information and have that data to understand your hiring workflow and to help you report that in the funnel view and also in the table view. So below here, when we group by the sources and break down by requisitions, you would be able to see for career sites, how are the different individual requisitions are performing and what does that funnel look like from application all the way to hires. But on the other side, I would also be able to see what is the flip. So I can group by requisitions and break down by sources. And this way, for the different positions, I would be able to see how my different channels were actually contributing to the overall pipeline. So this whole view is designed for flexibility. One of some other common cases we have been hearing was, can we have group by sources or group by, let's say, departments, and then can we see things like diversity? In this case, to choose gender, and then I would be able to see in terms of my different departments that I'm supporting or different recruiters supporting, how are the data look like in terms of the different gender of those pipeline data. So again, all of these are from your ATS. I will not infer any of those gender diversity information. Those are all from self-reported from the ATS. So these are reflecting the real data that we can get from the ATS to help you make sense of the data in different way of the flexibility that you would prefer. So that concludes most of the introduction I wanted to make. Let me open up the chat to see if there's anything I can further explain.
There is one. It says, does screen include reviewing profile/application, or is it only phone screen?
Great question. So this one in particular would be depending on how your ATS set up the ATS pipeline. So there is a pre-stage that I didn't cover for today's conversation, is to map your ATS stage to the bucket of the stage that makes sense to you. So whichever way that you wanted to report this funnel on, these are the basic structures that we provide, but you would be able to add more to make sure this is reporting onto how you would see your end-to-end workflow and the pipeline be like. So a lot of flexibility. If you wanted to use it one way or another, that's going to be possible.
Any other questions from the group? All right. Anything else that you guys would love to share?
Feature-wise, no, I think that about covers it. But I know both Yuno and I are very excited about sharing this with everyone here. We've done this demo a couple of times, and each time it's really rewarding to share with everyone. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to more conversations with each of you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for attending this webinar. If you want more information, feel free to go to our website, book a demo, and really just interact with us. And just if you have a question, ask, and we're happy to answer those questions for you. So thanks again for your time, and have a great rest of your Thursday and a better rest of the week.
Thank you all.